Welcome to Paragon WEBForms Fundamentals, Module 3, WEBForms Basics. This is 3.2, Templates and Transactions. This is the third of 4 modules designed to familiarize new members with their primary business tools, Paragon and Creo WEBForms. This third module covers basic WEBForms usage. Today we will learn how to create a template for purchase of attached property. We will create a transaction from a template and edit forms within it. This course demonstrates how to work with WEBForms as a tool via a number of examples. However, it is not intended to teach you how to write contracts, how to specify which forms or clauses you should use for specific transactions, or to teach you how to fill in specific forms. See your manager or broker for guidance on these matters. So here's some WEBForms terminology. A transaction is like a binder that contains all forms, contracts, clauses, and files that pertain to a particular real estate transaction. Forms are legal contracts that are filled out online, provided by your board, association, or brokerage, and reviewed periodically to ensure compliance and legally protect all parties involved. Documents are information files other than forms that pertain to a transaction. They can't be filled in online except by markup tools. They could include listing photographs, lawyer letters, commission disbursements, that kind of thing. Once a form is signed and completed, it becomes a document in the transaction. A template acts as a starting point or blueprint for a particular type of transaction. It's pre-populated with form, clauses, and information that is common to that type of transaction. It expedites creation of transactions and helps prevent errors and omissions. It is said you save 80% of the time it takes to create a transaction if you'd create it using a template. Over the course of a career, that adds up. Clauses are terms and conditions added to a contract or form. So you're encouraged to access WEBForms via the Realtor Toolbox section on the REBGV homepage. And that's the flashing red box. You can also access WEBForms via the link on the Paragon homepage. Again, the flashing red box. And you can also access WEBForms by clicking the WEBForms link in the action icons in Paragon. You can also access WEBForms via the URL, webforms.ca, where you will sign in using your REBGV credentials. Now let's work with WEBForms. Today we are going to create a template and then use it to create a transaction for the purposes of offering on a property for our clients, Bobby and Brenda Buyer. Templates can be created from the widget here if you happen to have it on your dashboard. Remember from the previous video, you can add and remove widgets by unlocking your dashboard here. But you can also go down to the Settings button, click it, and come down to Transaction Templates. Here is an attached sales template I created for a previous class. I'm going to delete it. And this is how you delete a template. Now we have 0 templates in this program. I'm going to add one. Click the plus symbol. I'm going to call this an attached sales. Now, because I've done this several times, I can choose one, attached sales template. And this is going to be a condo sale. Bobby and Brenda have found a condo that they like. This is, of course, at the template level, so we wouldn't put anything about our purchase in here, but you might want to put in a template for condos, attached properties, and strata, or whatever you like. Anything that you like for a description for a template. I don't feel the need for one, so I'm going to say save. Now we're inside the attached sales template. Its type is condo sale. It currently has no description, but I could change any of these items, and once I did, I would update here. Okay, so these are the details. Note that you can add checklists so that every transaction you create would have a checklist area. For example, obtain strata documents, everything down to obtain keys and hand over to buyer. You could have a checklist that goes through your workflow and create and add it to every transaction. You can also do this at the transaction level, but it's nice to know you can do it at the template level as well. Here you can add contacts at the template level. So for example, I've got conveyancing as a contact in every transaction that I create, but you can decide what contacts work for you. Documents and folders. If you open this section, you can add, by way of the plus symbol, folders and documents. Now, there aren't that many documents you would need for every attached sale, but there are folders. You're probably going to need a folder for minutes of the Strata Council. That's just an example of how to create a folder. I'm not going to go into it, but in my own, I would have another folder for AGM, another folder for engineers' reports, etc. Now let's go to forms. To add forms to a template, you click the plus symbol, and a search box opens up. And you click into the search box and begin typing in the names of the forms you're going to need. We're going to need, for Bobby, a contract of purchase and sale, residential. And there it is. So I select it. Once I've selected it here, a number 1 appears in the basket, letting me know that one form is in the basket. But rather than add it to the template at this point, I will clear the search box and add more forms to the basket. Now I'm going to look for disclosure of representation in trading services. And if I type in disclosure of rep, I get the one that I'm looking for right here. Note that it comes in various languages. So you'll want to be sure that you get the language you're looking for, and the one that's not, the language is not mentioned, that's English. So now there's 2 in the basket. I clear the basket, click into it again, and now I'm going to look for privacy notice and consent, another form I need for every transaction. It's the easiest to find because it's the only form with the word privacy in it. Now there are 3 forms in my basket, and I can clear the search field and go back for another. What about disclosure of remuneration? Okay, disclosure of remuneration, there it is, I add it. Now there's 4 in the basket. I clear the search box, click back into it, and I'm going to look for subject removal and appointment of conveyancers. Okay, that should be enough. Now, take note, this form is a little bit different depending on which board you're working with. So here's BC Northern, here's Fraser Valley, here's Kamloops. Here's the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver. I select it. The number in the basket goes to 5. I remove the contents of the search box, click back into it, and look for FinTrack. This is another form I use for every transaction, and I'm looking for the individual identification record. So I select it. Now I have 6 forms in my basket, and I'm going to go ahead and add them to this template. Now, I generally need 2 fin tracks in my transactions, and if I don't, I can always delete one at the transaction level. But I like to have 2 there because, as I say, in most cases I need 2. So I'm going to go back and get another one. This is the only way to get 2 fin tracks. You can't add 2 at a time. Okay, individual identification information record, add, and add. So now we have all of the forms in our template. Now, the forms come in the order that you added them. We added the CPS first and disclosure of representation in trading services, but I sometimes like to order them in the order that they're going to be used. So I click, hold, and drag them into different positions. I'm going to use privacy notice and consent. Then I'm going to probably use the fin tracks. And wherever the blue bar appears is where it will land when you let go. So you click, hold, and drag until you get it in the order that you like. Now, notice this 3-dot menu. This allows me to preview, download, delete, and mandatory lock and edit the form. I don't generally use this at the transaction level. You'll see a similar menu when we get to the transaction level. Or sorry, I don't use it at the template level. So that's probably good enough to be getting on with. I think we're ready to begin editing the CPS. Because what we can do at the template level is also add clauses. And when you click on it, it opens up the contract of purchase and sale, and you can scroll down to the terms and conditions page. Now, the terms and conditions page will not accept clauses unless you select the multi-line editable text field by clicking into it. And it changes color slightly and a line appears around it. Now we know it has been selected and clauses may be added. So I'm going to go to the clauses. Incidentally, anytime you open a document or form particularly forms, you get the form editor. You see where my cursor is running along the top? These are the form editor tools, and the blue band is called the form editor. Briefly, you can do things with the form. Again, these are more useful at the transaction level. Change fonts, add clauses. You can toggle between forms in a transaction, or in this case, a template. Go back and forth. You can go to various pages in a multi-page document. You can access help resources. You can zoom in and zoom out. You can mark up using markup tools. That's much more useful with documents than it is with forms. You can add a page and remove a page, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. So again, I have to click in, go to clauses, and it works just like when we were looking for forms. You click into the box and type in a clause you're looking for. We're going to look for a new first mortgage clause. So we type new, and there it is, new first mortgage clause. I select it. The number goes to 1 in the basket. I remove the search box contents, click back into it, and type in inspection. And we'll get inspection of property clause revised. That's the one I want. I select it. The number in the basket goes to 2. I clear the basket, and I go back in and look for strata documentation. Okay, strata documentation to be provided clause. That's the one I want. I select it. The number in the basket goes to 3. I clear the search box, go back in, and I'll look for buyer approving And this will bring up several, and I will look at buyer approving the property disclosure statement. Yeah, let's take that one. The number in the basket goes up. I clear the search box, and this one is slightly different. It's buyers with an apostrophe approval of. That should be enough to be going on with. And the one I'm looking for is buyer's approval of the title search. And I select it. And I think that's all I'm going to add to my template. So I'll go ahead and say OK. Now, when you add clauses, there's a few things you should know. They come in the order, if you add them all at once, they come in the order that you added them. However, if I were to add one now and I moved my cursor here, it would come in wherever the cursor is. Another thing to be aware of is that you see how one subject ends here and this one starts without a line break? So you always want to come in and tidy it up and make it clear who the subjects are for, and make sure that they're separated so that it makes an easy read. Here's a good example as well. This should be, a space should be added, and here a space should be added. Now, if I were to add more clauses to this page, what would happen was I would get a scroll bar down this side. Or the system would say, you have added too many characters. Do you want to add another page? But it's not the greatest system, and I've tried it several times to prepare for teaching this, and I highly recommend that instead of letting the scroll bar appear and the system try to add another page, you look at what you've got, and if there is no scroll bar and you want to add more clauses, add a page yourself right here. Now I can scroll down. There's my one page. And here's a second page of clauses. And I can now add extra clauses if I want. Your broker will tell you if you want an empty homes clause or a property transfer tax clause, whatever you need. But you can also add those at the transaction level. So what I'm going to do now is remove that page here. And when you click Remove Page, it removes the last page of terms and conditions. It will never remove the original page of terms and conditions, but it will remove the last one that was added. Okay, I think that's enough for me to be getting on with this template. So I want you to notice that there are space holders here, these underscores. We're going to add transaction-specific information to fill in some of these underscores. And I'm going to show you how in a few moments. But for now, I'm going to say save and exit. It takes me back to the template itself. And now I'm going to go to transactions. So before I do this, I want to go back to Paragon and go to Bobby and find the property that Bobby is interested in. He said it's the one he favorited that he wants to offer on. So I can come along here and click on it. And click on the MLS number. And the MLS number is what I am here to get. So I remember discussing this property with Bobby. It has everything he's looking for, and I want to collect the MLS number. Now, you can very carefully select it, or you can simply write it down, whatever works for you. I'm apparently not having much luck copying. Okay, copy. There we go. Now I'm going to go back to close this, close that, and go back to WEBForms, and I'm in the transactions section. So here is the transaction icon in dark blue. There are no transactions at the moment, but I can add one here. So the name is going to be Bobby and Brenda Brentwood. You can call it whatever works for you. You could put the address of the property. You could even add the MLS number if you want. Oh, I missed the R. And now we're going to use the template we just created. Now we're going to select a source where the data is going to be pulled in from. It's going to be Greater Vancouver Residential. And the type of property is going to be residential attached. It's important that you get these two items right so the system knows exactly where to pull the data from. Now we need an MLS number. I'm going to type R and paste the rest of it. And now make sure that you're added as the selling agent and say create. So the first thing you'll notice is it opens on the details page. We're inside the transaction and we are on the details page. I want you to know that every transaction also has a dashboard. Just as the overall system has a dashboard, each transaction has its own, and you can add and remove widgets to it the same way by unlocking the dashboard, adding and removing widgets. Now on your main dashboard, the forms area contained all the forms in your entire WEBForms. This one is just the forms in this transaction. So it's very specific. Notice that you've got the property address, the area. Notice that the buyer will be added once we've added our buyers to the contacts. Here's the agent, the MLS number, the seller, and apparently there's two sellers. Okay, so we've got dashboard, we've got details, and you'll notice that some of the details have come in, like the legal description. You can add details. Some of them will be added automatically when you fill in forms, but you can also come in and add details yourself. And if you add details, the forms will be pre-populated with those details when you go to edit them. If you add them on the form, the details page will be edited. So it edits back and forth. Now we'll go to contacts. So we've already got the listing agent, we've got the listing brokerage, we've got the sellers, we've got our brokerage, and we've got ourself. So those are already added by automatic processes, but we can add contacts. So we're going to create a new transaction contact, and it's important to put in the type because the type will tell the system where to insert the name on the contracts and forms. So we're going to say first name Bobby, last name buyer, and Bobby's address, I'm going to use one of mine for demonstration purposes. Okay, and legal name. So this I wanted to be sure to include. If you're working with someone who goes by the name Bobby, once you've checked their driver's license and filled out their FinTrack, you'll probably realize that their legal name is Robert. So if you fill in the legal name, that's what will be used on contracts. You want to probably leave this checked so that this client will be added not just to this transaction, but to your main contacts. Now say save. Okay, now both Bobby and Brenda are going to have to sign, so we're going to go ahead and add Brenda. And remember, she's got to be identified as a buyer. I think I've put her in before, so I'll just use it from the drop down. Save us a few nanoseconds. And buyer. And Brenda, that is her real name, is Brenda Buyer. So again, leave this checked so she's added to the main contacts and say save. So now Brenda and Bobby have been added, and this is a real advantage to you, because when you go to send out documents, for example, it will give you these people to choose from and their email addresses. I didn't add an email address for Brenda. I guess I should do that. Let's go back in and put an email address for her. And it's just that simple to edit. Okay, and you get a success window. Beautiful. So now we can go down to our forms. And you'll be gratified to see that all of our work in creating a template and importing our data will be reflected in the forms. So here we are. Legal name, Robert Buyer, Brenda Buyer. Same thing at the bottom. Now this is something, of course, you would want to change. There we go. And changing it here should probably change it at the top, but let's just see. No. So we'll change it here as well. Okay, and remove that. This is something that you encounter sometimes when there's more than one seller. So that's got that done. I'll just double check that nothing got... Yep, everything looks good. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our terms and conditions. Remember, I told you that we would be editing these underscores, or at least I'll show you how. I'm not going to do the whole thing. But let's see, subject to a new first mortgage being made available to the buyer on or before underscore. So what you do is highlight the underscore. Now anything I type will take the place of that underscore that I've highlighted. I've actually highlighted a little too much. I want a space there. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to say March 30th, 2021. And I'll put a comma. Okay, oh, there was already a comma. I'll take that out. So that's how you replace underscores with valid data for a particular transaction. Exact same process to replace the underscore for these for the financial parts. You just type numbers instead of letters. Here's a little trick I'll show you. I like to save a little time in typing and error by copying this and taking it to the next subject if the subjects all have the same date. That way you don't have to continually type all those characters. Okay. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So that's how you edit the form within the transaction. Okay, so now we're pretty much ready to send our offer in, I'll just show you some of the other transaction forms. So if I go to, for example, subject removal, I'll just show you what's been added. Buyer has been added, both buyers, both sellers, the sellers, the buyers. So it's a really efficient way to work. The more information you give to the system, the more your forms are going to be populated. So let me think if there's anything I want to leave you with. Just checking my class schedule here to see if there's anything that we haven't talked about. Oh, yes. Okay, I'm going to go back to the forms. I'm going to exit this. And remember we looked at the three-dot menu before? Well, we're going to look at it again. Now there's more things we can do because we're in a transaction. We can preview the forms, download them, delete them, rename them. In fact, let's do that. I want to go down to these FinTrack forms, and I'm going to rename them. Rename. Okay, and I'm going to put Robert Buyer for the one. This makes it easier to work with these forms if they're not both called the same thing. When you go to submit them, it's really nice if they're differentiated. Rename. Okay, and yeah, all those other things that you can do as well. You can edit the form, send it, copy, move it, slice it, mark it up, look at the history of it, when it was added to the transaction, things of that nature. Something else that you should know is you can select these forms for sending. So let's say I needed, I'm going to actually clear the basket, and I'm going to get the CPS residential and the privacy notice and consent, and maybe the disclosure of representation in trading services. Now if I click the basket, I get a whole new menu of things I can do. So I can copy these forms, I can download the zip file, I can print them, I can save them as a PDF, and I can send them via email. Let's try that. So here's the items I'm sending, and I can reorder them here. I can go back to information, click on the contact card, and remember I told you because we've added transaction contacts, the system knows that you most likely want to send it to someone here. So I'm going to send to Bobby because Bobby is going to print these contracts and forms out and sign and initial them and send them back to me. So I select. Now, you might recall that when we were setting up our system, I talked about the options you have. You can send as an attachment, a PDF attachment, or you can send as a link. Now, I'm only sending 3 documents, so sending as an attachment isn't a problem. But if you send large files and lots of them, you'll get an error message in red that says you've attached too many, and in that case, you must send as a link. The other thing to remember is if you send as a link, in your notification, in the settings, the notification settings, you can choose to be notified by email when the client accesses links you send them. Okay, so that's a nice feature. Okay, so here you could say a message. Okay, Bobby, please, oops, look at this. full function word processing. Bobby, please print, sign, and return to me. Okay, it says who it's going to, and all you have to do is say send. And it gives you a success banner, and you know that it's been sent. Let's look at other things. Let's look at print. I'm going to click the basket again, and notice the items remain in the basket. If I wanted them out, I would click this X. But I'm going to say click. I'm going to print them. Bobby's coming into my office to sign these in person. So I'll say print. And again, I can move them around. And then I say print. And they open in the PDF viewer of my computer. It's quite specifically in the browser of my computer. It looks a little different depending on what browser you're using. But once it's open, you can review them. And you can click the print icon and print them. Okay, we're not going to do that, but it's nice to know that we can. Okay, I'm going to remove. Now I'm going to clear the basket, and we're going to talk for just a moment about a signing program. So if you go to the store, because all that printing and emailing and everything is a little bit outdated, today people expect automatic signing programs. So here's the store in WEBForms, and it allows you to purchase accounts for any of these signing programs or these transaction management programs. And the thing to remember is these three on the right-hand side require you to link them to your WEBForms account. AuthentiSign has the same parent company that runs WEBForms for Kriya. And so when you purchase it, the account is automatically linked to your WEBForms. And what happens is you get a pen that will be inserted here in your icons. And it will be your signings. You'll be able to go to your signings there, create a new signing. And just to give you another example, if I go back to the transaction, go into Bobby and Brenda, and go into the forms, and choose the contract of purchase and sale, once I have linked a signing account, a pen will appear when I say to the basket. There will be a pen icon here, or maybe they budge these over and put it somewhere here, but there will be a pen here. And when I click it, it will send this document out for signing. I will be able to place initial and signing blocks and assign who is going to be signing and send it out. I can also send a CC copy to the listing agent if I like. I think what I'll do now actually is I'll demonstrate that, but I'll have to use my own account. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to append another video with an account that has a signing program. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in a moment. Welcome back. Now I am in my own WEBForms account, and I have created a mock-up of the Bobby and Brenda transaction. Notice I have a pen here. That lets me know that this account has a signing program linked to it or integrated. So I can go into Bobby and Brenda by clicking the name of the transaction. And I'm going to send the CPS for signing. Click on it. It opens up. And all I have to do is make sure that it everything looks the way that it's supposed to, and click the pen. There's a pen here as well in the form editor. I click it. Signing opens up. I choose participants. I want Robert and Brenda. I add them. I look at the document, make sure it's what I was expecting. I can open it if I want, but that's what I was expecting. And you can see by these little yellow squares that the system has identified Bobby and Brenda as buyers and added some initial and signing blocks. I go to Design. And now I can add my own blocks where I put, the system doesn't generally do this, but I want them to acknowledge. Notice that it's Bobby selected up here, and I can change to Brenda. And now they each have a initial block there. I can come down and verify that yes, the system has put in blocks there, 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 there. And here there's some extra ones. They put in some just in case you need them. But all I need Bobby and Brenda to do is acknowledge me as their realtor. There is no double ending going on. So those are the only two I need. And these. And they've got signing blocks as well. And everything looks pretty good. So I say next. Now, typically, I would go in here and customize this invitations. I would want Bobby and both Bobby. Here's Bobby. I would say your offer. And then I would say, please take the time to read before signing. Okay, and I would do the same thing for Brenda. And probably the easy way to do this is just copy it and paste it. Okay, then I would say save. And then I would say send invitations. Then the way that that looks like arriving, oh, incidentally, these are when I sent forms to Bobby. Okay, before we had the signing program, we were just going to send forms. Bobby was going to sign them and send them back. So that's what that looks like. Here's my teacher account branding. If this was from my account, all my real branding would be there. In fact, you might see it now. Yes, so on the signing invitation, you can see my actual branding, my photo, and any other branding that I had put in there. And now this is an invitation for Bobby to start signing. He just clicks. And it opens up. And Bobby can draw his signature if he's using a touch screen or he wants to make a mess of it with a mouse. He can select a different font. And I think Bobby probably would. If I know Robert, he's a little more madman. Okay, then he says he accepts the look of his signature and the terms of service. And then he clicks Start up here. And the little red arrow here indicates where he needs to click. Click, and it advances. And it automatically advances to all of the areas that Bobby needs to initial or sign. Notice Bobby doesn't see Brenda's blocks, but they're there. And then when it's finished, this pop-up comes up and he can stay and read the document. But I'm hoping that he's already read it, or he would have gone slower through it. But he can complete the signing as well. And he can add a password here. If he does this, he can use the invitation that he was sent to the signing as a gateway to his own little storage where the finished document will be signed. I generally tell my clients to say no thanks, because I would rather them come to me when they want to revisit their signed documents. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Now the system is sending it to the second person in line, who is Brenda. And when she's finished signing, the system, because I'm using Authentisign, the system will automatically file a copy of the finished contract in the document section of their transaction. Now, you don't get that with the other two signing programs. You would have to upload those, but it's almost equally easy. Okay, I'm going to call it a day, and thank you for watching. And we'll continue with more videos and more information in the future. Stay tuned. Remember, there are many help resources to guide you through your use of web forms. The Real Estate Board has their own help resources to help you. You can also contact the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver Help Desk. You can email help. Thank you for watching this video. It is our hope that it will help you to use web forms to your greatest advantage.